Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And if you are listening after the fact over on Teach Better Talk podcast, hey, shout out. We appreciate you. It is Wednesday, March 23rd. Holy moly. We have our Teach Better 7th birthday tomorrow, a brand new guest to the Teach Better Daily Drop-In Morning Show. Good news articles, and a lot in store. So please go fill up your coffee. Let's get ready for this fabulous Wednesday, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Bright and early this morning. It is Wednesday, which means we have a whole lot in store for you, including Jake Miller in the house. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody.
Oh my gosh. We've been talking about how you were coming on the show kind of throughout the week. We've mentioned it. And the last time you and I were together for sure, but maybe the last time we caught up was the Teach Better conference back in 2019. I can't believe it's been so long.
Yeah, I know. I was actually in that building just a couple weeks ago. So I live in Ohio, which is where you guys had the conference because the Jeff Gargas lives 20 minutes away from me or so. And so I was at a training for my school district that I teach at in that building. And at one point I got bored in the training and I was like, I'm going to go out for a walk. And I'm like wandering down the hallway and I'm like, this is the room where we ate Chick-fil-A together. And like I wandered a little further down the room, like, this is where I saw Dave Burgess present. And then I walked a little bit. This is where I interviewed Tara Martin and Adam Welcome on my podcast, and some woman that works in the building, because that building is not just the building for the Teach Better conference. I don't know if people realize that building has other functions. Some woman that worked there is like, do you need help finding something, sir? And I'm like, no, I'm just remembering good times. But that was so long ago. That's been now 2.5 years almost. Is it crazy?
Yeah, I know. We're currently planning for the Teach Better Conference 2022, but we haven't done one since 2019. So, yeah, there's a lot of like nostalgia and feelings, and it's not in the same building this coming year, but I will say that building will always have a very special place in my heart. Lots of memories.
Yeah, you guys will have to meet there that weekend or that week and pour out a little liquor in the parking lot there.
You think so? Just like pop a bottle of
Yeah.
Prosecco or champagne and just be like, hey, team members,
Right.
back in the day, this was the OG spot.
And some of the newbies on the team will be like, oh, these old people talking about the good old days.
It is. Yeah. We walked uphill both ways to get to that location. Let me tell you.
Oh man, that conference uphill both ways for sure.
Oh, we have so much to reminisce on, so much to catch up on, Jake. But in case somebody listening isn't aware of all the work that you're doing, would you mind sharing a little background, a little about yourself for our community here?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, I am a teacher. I am here in Ohio, but on the side from that teaching stuff, I do a lot of work relating to my like true love, which is supporting educators with educational technology. I found years ago that as much as a teacher, I enjoy that feeling that we talk about of when a student finally learns something new that they didn't think they can grasp, and they have that aha moment, and like that feels good. I discovered that for me, that's when a teacher discovers that they could do something with technology that they didn't think they could. So that became a love of mine. And so now, speak about that, blog about that, work on social media about that, host the Educational Duct Tape podcast about that, and wrote the Educational Duct Tape book about that. But really, it's about helping educators with ed tech. That's my jam. That's what I do.
I love this perspective. It's just an audience shift, right? I think that
Yeah.
educators sometimes forget that if you're not working with 5-year-olds or 11-year-olds or 16-year-olds, that you can still actually continue being a teacher. So you're an educator of teachers, right? Of educators that are looking to improve their tech resources. I love this. I can't wait to dive into this. Technology is always a good topic to learn about and talk about on the show. There's always something that we can find new to implement. So I know you do a lot of work in this space, and obviously the book and the podcast and everything else, you are constantly sharing.
Yeah, that's what I love doing. And when I discovered how good it felt to support with that, I just try to find more and more ways to share that and support and keep getting that feeling.
So much to dive into here. I do want to say good morning to those of you who are choosing to participate actively in the comments. Brianna's commenting. Nikki's here. Brianna Shaner is here as well. She would have been with us. A lot of these people would have been with us at the Teach Better conference. So crazy that it's, so long ago. But, there's a lot of those memorable milestones that are so nice to be able to reminisce on. Obviously, we're hoping to have a very memorable celebration of milestone with all of you tomorrow for the Teach Better team 7th birthday. So on Daily Drop In tomorrow, we actually have the OGs, the co-founders, the men you know well, Jake. We have Jeff Gargas and Chad Oshowski joining the show to be able to reflect on the last 7 years and what they have worked to build together. So kind of a crazy time, don't you think?
Yeah, happy birthday, Teach Better. That's so cool.
Isn't that kind of fun? I keep joking. I was like, this is just an excuse to eat cake. Like, I don't know who out there needs to hear this, but tomorrow you get to splurge. Tomorrow it gets to be about you. And tomorrow, blow out a candle just for fun. That's kind of my mindset. That's kind of where I'm at for the birthday celebration. I'm excited to reminisce and do like the whole history of Teach Better, but I really just think that giving everybody an excuse to celebrate is a good reason to eat cake.
Yeah, I fully intend. We have a place near us that does like little personal sized bundt cakes. I fully intend to run out, get my own personal sized bundt cake, and sit here and eat it with you guys.
I love it. I think that's a great way to spend a birthday, don't you think?
Right, for sure.
Jake, here on the show, we have a lot of things that we're going to get into, but one of the first few things we like to do bright and early in the morning is use an app. It's called Happy Feed. Have you ever heard of it before?
No, I have not.
All right. So on the show, about 5 weeks ago, I'm making that up. It could have been 6, it might have been 10, it could have been 2, but about 5 weeks ago, we had somebody on the show who was able to recommend that everybody, to improve their happiness, take intentional time to document a moment of gratitude. There's obviously so many different ways that we can do that. We can physically write it, we can use an app to support us. But what personally I like about this free app is that we're able to document a moment of gratitude, but also have very easy access to revisiting those moments later on over time. I love being able to get notifications that says, hey, did you want to hear what your moment of gratitude was 3 weeks ago? Or we also have an opportunity here on this app to like shake your phone and different memories come up from different times. So it's kind of fun. We like to curate these resources. So Jake, here on the show in the morning, we like to document a moment of gratitude, something that you are grateful for this morning. There is a hint section if you need it, but anything come to mind specifically?
What do you mean there's a hint section? Like if I can't think of anything I have gratitude for, there's a hint for me?
Yeah, so the hint this morning, which I realized yesterday, if you click it more than once, it gives you more than one hint. I'm just saying, it's kind of cool. This one says, remember that you're resilient and strong. You've made it this far. Any attributes that you're proud of? So, like, it gives you a prompt to say, here's some ideas of things that
I
you
like
might
that.
be grateful for. Do you
That'd be a
want to
fun
hear?
way to start off a class period, going over that with students and thinking about that as a kind of a thought piece. I was thinking before I asked what the hint was, I was just so curious about what the hint was. What I am, what I'm grateful for is the people that I work with, my colleagues. I think those connections we have with the people, not only in our own, role in our job and our schools, but also people, that we connect with, like the people that are here chatting with us this morning. But I've got a great group of teachers that I could be real with, and they could be real with me, and we joke around together. We support each other as teachers, but we also support each other as friends. And I think those relationships with our colleagues are so important.
It's interesting. I feel like that's a theme that's come up on the show as moments of gratitude a number of different times over the last few weeks. I wonder if it's also the kind of phase of life we're in the school
Mm.
year, right? Like March, February, we start to get a little down. Our energy is low for many people. This is like a very long stretch without a really nice break. Some of us are heading into a break for spring break. Do you think that has to do with kind of looking around and appreciating the people in our lives?
No, I definitely think it is, and I think it also not only just this time of year, but just what we've been through the last 2 years. You know that a team of people are really bonded by what they go through together, and we've all as educators been through a lot over these last few years. So I think that's huge, and I think it's not only has it grown those friendships and those connections, but also we've realized the need to to appreciate those people, that are in our lives, that are part of our work team, our work family.
So true. We before we get into our next segment, I want to take some intentional time to talk about the book and the podcast. So, which do you want to start with? I want to make sure that our audience fully understands that they can go subscribe to the podcast, be an active listener in the podcast, but then obviously throw that book on their bookshelf and continue to be a learner. So, with those two projects, can you tell us a little backstory? What can I get from those two projects? And to be honest, I'd love to hear why they both exist.
Yeah, so they kind of go together. They're of the same name. They're Educational Duct Tape and EdTech Integration Mindset. The podcast is actually on a hiatus right now, but for those people who don't listen, there's 109 episodes out there you can go back and listen to. So hopefully by the time you get through all of those, I'll be back and there'll be live ones, and you won't even notice that anything happened. You won't even notice the hiccup. But yeah, the podcast is currently on a hiatus. As a father of 3 and a teacher, and still trying to do this thing supporting educational teachers with educational technology, I just felt like some things had to pause, and so the podcast is one of them for right now. But I started the podcast first years ago when I realized that I was trying to support educators with educational technology, and I was tweeting a lot and putting a lot on my blog about different tech tools. And I noticed that I was sharing like, oh, here's a new update to Google Forms, or look what's new with Google Classroom, or check out this new tool, Flipgrid. And I was sharing these different tips and things. But what I didn't have room for on Twitter and on my blog really was the kind of conversations about using the educational technologies, and the conversations about how it's okay not to use all of the technologies. We use the ones that address a goal we have in our classroom, and I needed a space to do that, and the podcast became that space. And so that's really one of the reasons that it started, was me wanting to be able to say directly to the teacher, this is why you might use this. This is why it's okay not to use this. This is how you might use it, and have those honest conversations with them. And I was a big podcast listener at the time, and so it was kind of a natural fit to go into it. But that kind of was my driving force to get into it. Was I wanted to do more than just saying, this is the new update to this technology platform. I wanted to talk to the teacher about it. And so I started that back in December 2018. I can't believe it's been that long. It's been over 3 years now.
Wow. Okay, I know I've heard this before, but can you give backstory on why the title became the name of all the work that you're doing? I know this story, but for our listeners, if they don't,
they're like, that's a weird name. That's a weird name there.
Yeah, you're like, duct tape for a tech guy? Like, I'm not
Right.
understanding what's the connection.
Yeah, so it came from a story that I tell both on the podcast and in the book, but I realized that duct tape is a tool, and I haven't used duct tape yet today. Have you used duct tape yet today, Rae?
I have not, but you know what? I need to put it on my list of to-dos this afternoon.
Just find something to do with duct tape, right? No, we don't just find something to do with duct tape, and we don't just find something to do with educational technology either. We go about our life and our work doing, achieving the goals and solving the problems we have. And sometimes we need tools to support us. And duct tape is a tool that might support you. I mean, there's a piece of duct tape right here on my microphone covering the stupid blue light that always turns on. I was like, why is there always this blue light when I'm on video? And I was like, you know what? I'll cover it up with duct tape. Well, duct tape is the perfect tool for covering up that blue light. And oftentimes educational technology is the perfect tool for that formative assessment, or that connection with families, or that rich way of assessing our students' understanding, or maybe a good way of differentiating an assignment, or providing remediation to some learners, or providing individual feedback. It's that tool, just like that duct tape is that tool. So we think about what we're trying to do as a teacher first, and then we identify a tool that can support us with it. Just like I thought about covering up this blue light on my microphone, and this piece of black duct tape was what solved the problem for me.
See, it's a perfect reminder, friends. Think of the why, the intention first, the resources, the tools, the support, the knowledge, the learning, the teaching. It will all come afterwards. So important. The book, though, when did the book come out?
So August of 2021. So about, what does that make it, like 8 months ago, 7 months ago. And that it seems crazy to me that it's been 7 months, but it also what's crazy to me is I think I started writing it in like 2018 or 2019. I mean, it was such a long process. I know you know that experience. You're
Well,
like, by the
that's
time the book comes out, you're like, I started writing this eons ago.
Well, that's why I had to ask because I'm like, I don't think I've talked to you since the book, but I knew the book was underway. It was a project. Which I'm giving a little talk to a group of educators tomorrow on teachers deserve it. And similar to what you're sharing, I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, I wrote that book, a year before it even came out, much less now. It's like it's such a process to get a book out and to be able to like remember what edits you actually kept in the book and what things you removed that nobody's even exposed to. So tell me a little bit about the experience writing a book for a decade and then getting
Yeah. That's so true. I had the experience the other day where I was talking to somebody in an interview, and I was like, "I think I tell that story in the book."
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's on the cutting room floor or if it's something that's actually in the book. I'd actually pull the book out, and I'm like, that's why I've got Post-it notes in my own book,
Yes.
reminding me where different things are because you've gone through so many iterations of it. Yeah, the
Wait,
crazy
but
thing with writing. So good.
I was gonna say we have to normalize that because I literally am doing that to my own book right now, and we just need to say like that's normal and not as weird as it sounds. Because
Right.
friends, if you're listening, you've never written a book, like truly, by the time all the edits and you take things out and move them, you just have no idea what's left in it. You have to read your own book.
Right. Yes. I literally the other day I was writing some reflection questions for a book study that a school is doing. And I was like, what do I talk about in chapter 4? Like and I literally was reading it myself. And I was like, oh, that was good. Yeah, Jake. I don't remember writing this part. But and the crazy thing is having started written it in 2018, like I've gone through, so I was a tech coach when I was writing the book, but when I was doing final edits on the book, I was back in the classroom teaching 8th grade science. And when I started reading the book, I was, it was pre-pandemic, and when I was publishing the book, it was obviously we were in the pandemic. We had been through remote learning. We were now in a place at that point in time where some people were doing remote learning and some people weren't anymore, and we were dealing with a lot of talk about teacher burnout and lack of teacher appreciation. And the kind of cool thing about that whole experience was I got to look at the book from a lot of different lenses as a tech coach, and then as a teacher, and then as an exhausted teacher, and then with the lens of remote learning, and then knowing that some teachers were feeling burnt out. And so I got to keep looking at it and go like, what is a teacher who's feeling burnt out going to think about what I say here, and are there changes that I need to make based on that? And it was kind of interesting taking all those different lenses to it.
Such a good moment. I'm so excited. If any of you have not picked up the book, this is your opportunity. It's definitely a great read. I will say, Jake, we reference kind of resources every Wednesday. And for those of you who are familiar with the show, sometimes we reference books that support you in technology. Sometimes we reference resources or tools that support you in other areas of education. Jake, I always like when people have resources at their fingertips when they're ready to learn, be consumers, try something new. Definitely going to encourage all of our community here to go pick up a copy and continue to learn about how duct tape can help them be successful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So good. We're going to transition here, friends, into our good news article, our holidays for the day, and everything in between. So we'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Daily Drop-In. We are thrilled to have you here. If you are listening live with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or LinkedIn, we really appreciate having you here in the comments, starting your morning off with us. Don't forget to be an active learner by commenting and also sharing this feed, because that allows us to reach more and more people. If you are listening after the fact on Teach Better Talk podcast, the same applies to you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for taking a screenshot and sharing your thoughts with us. Also, obviously, head over to Jake's podcast as well. Wherever you like to listen, make sure to go subscribe, rate, and review there as well. Again, just another way for us to continue to add members into our educational communities. Jake, in this segment, we always love to celebrate new holidays and also kind of some fun stories that we can bring back to our students to foster conversation, or even bring back to our colleagues to foster conversation. So are you up for some celebrating?
I am always up for celebrating. That sounds great.
Good. All right. There's a lot to celebrate today. The first question I want to know is, do you have any animals in your house?
Well, so we have a hamster named Strawberry, and we
Oh,
currently are dog sitting our friend's dog Jackson, and he was just down here a couple minutes ago, but now he's not. He's a tiny little guy, and he's cracking us up. So
oh,
those are
perfect.
the animals in our house right now.
I love it. You need to celebrate him a little extra today because today is World Puppy Day,
World,
celebrating all the
that's
puppies.
perfect. Oh my
It's
gosh, we're gonna
perfect.
have so much fun with Jackson today.
See, and I'm just gonna ignore the fact I don't know when a puppy transitions into a dog officially, but
Mm-mm, they
I got
don't.
some old dogs in my house and they're still puppies. So
No, only ones who bark at you on the street are dogs. Everybody else is a puppy.
totally agree. See, there you go. It's also a lot of other holidays today. So depending on what you guys are looking to celebrate, there's a lot to celebrate today as conversation starters with staff members walking down the hall. Hey, did you know it was World Puppy Day? Things like that. It's also Atheist Day, Toast Day, National Chip and Dip Day. Are you a chip and
Mm.
dip guy, Jay?
Yes, please.
Why not, right? It's
Right.
World Tamale Day, it's Pakistan Day, it's World Maths Day. That will be a good one. And also World Meteorologist Day. I like that.
Oh, okay. I will send a shout out to my favorite area meteorologist, Betsy Kling.
Exactly. That's all you need in life is to be able to celebrate me. I mean, they tell us the weather. We get to prepare to figure out what kind of our outfits will be thanks to meteorology. We get
Right.
an update on when bed storms are coming. I mean, that's
Right.
good conversation for students.
Yeah, for sure. It's Meteorologist Day, everybody.
I love it. There's a lot of good news articles out there, Jake, but I do want to share one that we kind of teased yesterday just as kind of a fun topic. But I also forgot that you were a science teacher. So
Mm.
maybe you might find this interesting. The news article says two newly identified species of see through, and they're saying in quotes, glass frogs were just found in Ecuador. And there are some amazing pictures of these completely transparent gorgeous new frogs. Any
That
thoughts on?
sounds that sounds ugly, not beautiful. So I'm looking it
Oh
up
my
right now.
god,
Transparent frog. I'm
it's
like, you
so
could see like their organs and things. That would be
yes,
gross.
you can, and they are all vivid and bright colors in this animal. It says these two new species of glass frogs were found living the same on the same acreage in this reserve where they were identified just recently. First, they thought that it was an ill animal because of this
Yeah.
very strange, nearly transparent color. But as you look, this is a frog that has been newly identified. There's species that are identified all around the world all the time. This one is definitely worth noting because you can see completely through the animal and it is quite a sight to see. I would definitely encourage all of you, no matter the grade level that you teach, to bring up an image and actually discuss that you can see all the different organs and things that are functioning within the animal. It's amazing.
I'm currently making faces that you should not make in a live feed looking at the pictures of these animals like this one, like it's
I
so cool. It's so cool, but it's also kind of gross at the same time. But you're
it's
right. Like I want some of these as pets in my science classroom so we could look at them.
I mean, how frequently do you get to see a beating heart inside a living animal?
Right? Not very frequently. I mean, like
Or, for
never, pretty
example,
much.
I have no idea what organ this is, but there's something very, very green in this animal. And I mean, that's got to be a discussion, right? What organ
Right?
do you have that is vivid green like that? I mean, this could be a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah, I had recently on my podcast Al Thomas, the Edu co-pilot, and Al does a lot with visual storytelling, video and pictures and things like that, and creativity with those kinds of tools. And we were talking about different ways to bring that in the classroom. And one activity he talked about was, I think he called it like 16 questions, and he challenges his class to look at a picture and come up with 16 different questions about that picture. And what a cool picture this would be to do that with, like what, like not only what's that green part and why is the heart beating like that and stuff like that, but also why is this animal transparent? We know that evolutionarily speaking, like there's normally a reason they're like that. Why is this one transparent? I don't know, but those are cool questions to be able to ask.
See all the things you can do. What I love about a good news article, it's not only fun in the morning to learn like a fun fact, right? Learn something new, continue to be learners, but also these are great topics, whether it be the holidays or the good news, to bring to your students or bring to your colleagues. I mean, how often do we walk down the hall for, in our school buildings bright and early in the morning and we might say good morning, but we don't necessarily foster those relationships right then and there. And hey, this morning you can walk down the hallway and as you say good morning to someone, say, hey, did you know there was a new discovery that there's a transparent frog that was just discovered? Like
I don't know. I don't know if my coworkers would be cool with that morning conversation. Hey, did you hear about the see-through frog? And they'd be like, "What?"
Okay, how about this, Jake? You can use it like in the workroom, like later after lunchtime, maybe just to as a fun fact. Maybe you
Okay.
could print out a picture and hand it to somebody and be like, "What are your thoughts on this incredible new creature?"
Okay.
Okay, Jake, it sounds like you're not going to make friends today. That's what it sounds like.
Well, not over glass frogs.
I'm just saying, glass frogs would be quite interesting. I like this.
I mean,
Bringing,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, go bond with the science.
I have a couple colleagues that would be into that story. That's what you got to know, right? You got to know how to connect with the people where they're at. I've got some people would be like, "Could we just talk about the last night's basketball game instead of talking about glass frogs?" But other people would be totally into this conversation. So I'm with you.
All right, friends, we're going to transition here into a segment that many of you know. It is our brainstorm bank. This is where we're going to get into our theme this week, discuss all the knowledge that Jake is willing to share with us this morning. And I promise we won't talk about glass frogs. We'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. We are in our second to last segment of the Daily Drop-In Morning Show. This is a segment we do every single morning where we just like to take a pause and ask all of you as you're live with us, hey, friends, do you need anything? We are here to always brainstorm questions with you. Jake and I obviously do not promise that we will have the right answers to anything that you need, but always here to ensure that we get that brainstorming started so you can head off into whatever direction you need to find the right solution for your classroom with your students and your communities. Jake, we do also have a theme this week that's all about celebrating the Teach Better birthday, kind of having moments to celebrate, coming together as a family, having opportunities to, put a little pep in our step. You guys can see all the ways that we are celebrating our Teach Better birthday, which is actually tomorrow. You can actually visit teachbetter.com/happy birthday to see 6 ways to get involved. One of which will not only include daily drop-in show, but also a birthday party that we're encouraging all of you to grab a piece of cake, an adult beverage, whatever you want to celebrate with, and meet us for that virtual birthday party. Jake, when I obviously was going to have you on the show, I knew that we were going to talk technology. I knew there was going to be so much to share. But if you had one soapbox moment, one thing that you're like, gosh, if there was one thing I could communicate to the Teach Better community, this would be it. What's the topic you are always eager to talk about?
I think this is a part that changed. Like I was talking about with starting writing my book when I was a tech coach pre-pandemic and then finishing it, kind of mid-pandemic and back in the classroom. This is something I really realized. What I feel like educators need to hear right now is their best is okay, right? They don't have to be perfect at the things they're doing, whether it's educational technology or whether it's how they're connecting with parents or whether it's their mastery of their curriculum and things like that. We can't be perfect, and we have to be real, and we have to be our best selves. And so I like to talk, when we talk about picking educational technologies, for example, I say there's a lot that you can learn out there, but all we can really do is think about what's a front of the line goal for us. What's something that we really need to handle, and let's just address that and not worry about all of the other things right now. There's so many opportunities to improve, and there's too many opportunities to improve, right? We can all get better, but we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. We want to pick things that are realistic for us to do without, burning ourselves out, things that make our jobs more enjoyable and our teaching more effective without going overboard in the way we're doing it. So I think as much as I talk about, using Flipgrid and using Pear Deck or Nearpod and using these different tools and things like that, I think the more important thing to do is think about just what's realistic for a teacher to do, because the kids need teachers who use technology, yes, but they also need teachers who are in a good headspace. And so if you're overexerting yourself to get there, to get to using those tech tools, then you're taking yourself out of that good headspace, and that's what they need from you too. And so I think it's important to be realistic with yourselves about what you're trying to do in your classroom.
I wonder if we can dive into that a little bit more. Our team here loves to talk about ideas. It's always good to have a healthy debate, but then what's the takeaway? What's the action step? What's something that our community can literally go do later this afternoon or later this week to start working towards the solution to what they're currently struggling with? Any perspective on action steps that we can take from that idea?
I'm a big reflector. I
Mm.
have this spreadsheet where I keep kind of my lesson plans. It's a calendar view kind of lesson plan. It tells me what things I'm doing each day, and then I have a spot for each day just in this calendar that I've kind of self created, where every day I jot down some notes on that lesson that day, and those function for the next school year. When I go back to that lesson and maybe I go, oh, this should have been 2 days, or I should have thrown this part out, or whatever I noted, but it also forces me to think about what went well and what didn't go well. And I found myself over these last 2 years in the science classroom take things out of my practice and amplify things that are in my practice and add things into my practice because I've forced myself to notice them when I reflect on them. It's kind of, and we should know that as teachers because we do that with our students a lot sometimes, right? Sometimes we ask them a question that we're not even trying to assess their understanding of something. We're just trying to force them to think about something, right? So you ask that question that gets them to reflect on an idea so that they then actively think about it. And so if we actively think about how things are going in our classroom, even just by writing a 3-sentence reflection on how a lesson went, we're forcing ourselves to discover those areas where we can improve, or sometimes maybe even some areas where we're working really hard to do something and finding that the benefits of it aren't that big, right? So why are we putting that time into that? So I think that reflection is a big piece there.
Do you ever find reflection to be difficult?
I think it comes relatively natural to me, but I could see why some people feel that way because there's a certain level of comfort that you have to have in that kind of reflection where you're being able to say something didn't go well, right? And I think that could
Mhm.
be difficult for some people to admit those things because our society kind of teaches us not to almost not to admit our own faults or our own struggles, right? So that's the hard part in reflecting is being able to admit when something didn't go well.
Yeah, it's so interesting discussing with other educators. Even I'm just reflecting on conversations I've had this week outside of obviously our daily drop in conversations, but meetings or, collaboration. Brad is in the comments discussing they kind of had some deep reflection and mastermind yesterday, which happens every Tuesday in our communities here. So I just think that reflection is something that comes quite naturally to educators, I
Mm.
think, in the masses, but it's also something that we have to actively choose to do. I think there's a small percentage of educators that are naturally reflecting on their practices to strive to improve. And there's other factors for other educators that get in the way of those practices being consistently in our lives. Whether you throw it on your calendar or you ensure to do it at a specific time throughout the day, it's really important to get that reminder that reflection has to be an integral part of the dialogue to ensure that we're moving forward.
Yeah, I love Alex's point there in the chat there too. He said in the Facebook chat, he said, "I'm the opposite. I can easily pick out all the mistakes. I have a hard time making the good." That's a good point too. That needs to be part of our reflection too. What went really well here, and finding those. Alex, maybe I'm a little bit self-centered. I don't have problems with that.
No,
I'm
but
joking.
it's interesting. There are a lot of educators that struggle to not only celebrate their own successes, but identify the things that went well. It feels unfamiliar to some educators to be able to kind of brag on themselves and say,
Mm,
"Hey, I rock in this area." Just to
yeah.
be clear, that takes kind of an element of confidence. That's a self awareness. I think for some educators, it's tricky. I'd love to challenge our community here that's live with us. Can you share in the comments confidently something that you do well? Because I
Oh, I
think
love
that
that question.
sometimes we forget to focus on that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that video? And I think it's a book too. What does it go? I tried to quote something. I can't think of the quote. It's, oh gosh, now I've got to Google it. How am I going to Google something that I can't think of, Ray? This is
Yeah,
Google,
that quote,
predict what I want to say here.
that quote that's in my head that I can't think of.
Ah. It's something about to others. I'm almost there. I'm gonna figure it out.
Something
Oh,
about reflecting or seeing the good in identifying the good
yeah.
in yourself. I think
Mm,
it's so tricky to identify areas that we're successful in. I think that some people feel strange taking that intentional time.
yeah, I'm really good at coming up with quotes.
Yeah, it's true. I've always thought that when I'm like, gosh, I wish I could have a quote for this moment. Where's Jake Miller? Every time.
You could say, I know a quote, but I can't think of what it is.
The thing that keeps coming up in my mind, I had a situation yesterday where somebody quoted like a common thing on like TikTok and Instagram, and now it's coming up every 5 minutes. But I will say, I heard a quote yesterday that was referenced to me numerous times of like the best time to plant an oak tree is 30 years ago, but the second best time is today. Right. And I'm like, I feel like that's the quote that keeps popping into my mind that's relevant every moment of the day now. I need to find another quote.
I love that. That's a great one, though.
Or like the one that was the Instagram one was somebody quoted yesterday to me like, "Oh, I'm going to count to 10 and then I'm leaving." And then somebody else goes, "Don't forget 3." You know, it's
That's right. Don't forget 3. I love that. And 3 is the perfect number to use in that situation, right? Like there's something comedic about using 3 right there.
It's
If
always
they
good
say
to
don't forget 2, like it wouldn't have hit right.
No, you got to use 3 for sure. Do you have a lucky number, Jake?
No. They're just
No.
numbers.
I feel like 3 is my go-to like number in any way, shape, or form. So it works for that joke too, because I'm like, ooh, 3. That's a good one.
3. Definitely don't forget 3. I love 3.
Yeah, don't forget 3. Well, there are a lot of people kind of picking on us in the comments, which I'm okay with. I will say I do appreciate the comments coming in that say what we can identify that we're good at. I can support that Brad Hughes comment here. Connecting with kids is a passion and a strength. It's good to be able to identify those areas. He's great at this.
I just found my quote.
Yeah? What's your quote?
My Google search of all these things. It's obvious to you, amazing to others. And it's by Derek. I don't know if it's Sivers is how you pronounce the name, but there's a great YouTube video of it. And I think it was a book first too. Obvious to you, amazing to others. I think that sometimes is what makes it hard to reflect on things we're doing well. Like it might like for Brad, that connecting with kids is a passion and a strength. He might have gone for a while thinking like, oh, this is just the way I connect with kids. But other people are like, wow, Brad nails those connections with his students, right? He's so good at doing that. And sometimes it's hard to realize how impressive some of the things we do is, especially as teachers, because I mean, it's heroic work that we put in the classroom a lot of the time. So sometimes what we do, obvious to us, amazing to others. See the payoff for that quote. It was worth it, right?
So worth it. That's going to need to be the title of the show. Brad Hughes, you're listening. That needs to be the title of the show. That's a good quote right there. Say it one more time. This is what I want everyone to take away this morning.
Obvious to you, amazing to others. But I think actually the quote, Brad, should be something like Jake's looking for the quote. Hold on. Jake's looking for the title.
Yeah, the title on yesterday's show, because it was such a mess with Katie Miglin. I don't think we provided a moment of value to anybody yesterday. It was "Don't click this comment." That was the title of the show yesterday.
I saw that and it was a good hook. I was like, what comment? And I was like going through there. But I was like, why is there a birthday cake on the screen? And now I know.
See, now we have all these different hooks, Jake. You're going to want to be a active participant in Daily Drop-In every morning with all these weird things that spark your interest.
Yeah.
It's good marketing right there. I will say before we transition, some of these other wonderful shout outs. Lori's saying a strength is not being afraid to try something new. Ooh, that's a great strength. I love that.
For sure.
Yeah. So good. I think I always appreciate Brad documenting different things for us. So this is good. So good. You know, Jake, we're going to transition here into our last segment. And our last segment on Wednesdays is something that I personally really love. It's one of my favorite times of the week. And this is where we get to give recommendations to our community of things that they can go choose to explore to continue to be a learner. Sometimes this has to do with a very specific theme we have. Sometimes it relates to our discussion, but whether it be podcasts, books, blogs, articles, or people that we need to go connect with, that content to just be good learners and continue our pursuit of better. That's where we're heading into next. So we will be right back. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Daily Drop-In. We are wrapping up here with some recommendations we love, which we like to do every single Wednesday. I do want to give a shout out to Alex, who's joking that we had no value yesterday. He's saying that's completely wrong. Every moment yesterday was exactly what he needed. For me, my recommendation is then sometimes you need absolute shenanigans, because that's all yesterday's show was with Katie Miglin. Jake, I think in this conversation, there were some good takeaways for people. I don't think this was a complete wash.
Not a complete wash, but I agree with Alex. Sometimes you just need the fun, right? You need the fun, you need those connections. I was thinking about what podcasts would I recommend, and I listen to a lot of podcasts for educators, but right now, like what I've been enjoying the most is on my way to work in the morning. I have a relatively long drive, about 40 minutes, and it's, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't tend to be super eager to be riding in my car at that point in time. So full disclosure, I'm not turning on Teach Better Talk or Aspire to Lead or Daily Drop In. Like, I'm just not ready for it yet.
Yeah.
Or my news podcasts that are keeping me up on the news. I listen to something that just entertains me and takes my focus away, not from the road. Like, I still pay attention to the road, but I listen to something that I enjoy. Like, I just finished the S Town podcast, which is old, but have you listened to S Town?
I have
Oh
not.
my,
Tell me.
oh, it's so good. Have you listened to Serial?
Yes.
Okay, so S Town was like 2017 or something from the same group, and it's actually not a fun podcast, but very interesting and a great, fantastic story, and really kept my attention. And so sometimes we need those kinds of things too, just like the TV shows you watch at night. Sometimes you need things that just feed mind or soul, and not necessarily to grow as an educator. So sometimes we need to find those kinds of podcasts too, or those movies or those shows or those books, that just bring in the fun or bring in the interest or just the enjoyment of taking in the content.
I think there's some guilt sometimes that people
Oh
feel with
yeah.
that. I see no problem with that, friends. Like, take the time you need. I vividly remember and frequently have moments where I'm like, I cannot consume any more educational junk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I've had conversations on education all day. I blogged about something education related. Like, I'm constantly consuming education typically in the US constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to normalize it's okay to completely step away and watch a trashy TV show or listen to a podcast that isn't going to make us better in a specific education
Mm.
area. Take time away to joke and laugh. I love one of my favorite podcasts is a Chicago radio show, and it's
Mm.
just like morning banter. Like, I can't even tell you what they talk about. They talk about nothing.
Right.
But I love the banter. I love the laughter, and it takes me out of my educational black hole and refocuses me on other things that are going on in the world. Sometimes you just can't consume specific topics. You're on overload. You're too full. That's okay.
I agree. That's why I need Ted Lasso too. Do you watch Ted Lasso?
Okay. No, but everyone says I should because it's about soccer. Isn't it like English Premier League related?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm not caught up, so no spoilers. We have about 5 episodes to catch up on. My wife and I are just in love with the show. It's such like a happy way to end our night because the Ted Lasso character is just so amazingly positive and funny, and I think a lot of teachers connect with him too because he's a coach, so it's a similar kind of thing. But it's a fantastic show.
I need to watch it. Friends, let us know in the comments this morning, what is your go-to turn off your brain enjoying television show? Ted Lasso is so common. Everybody loves that show. I can't admit what I watched last night because all of you would be so disappointed in me. So let me see what
90
else.
Day Fiance.
See, that's a show that you could choose to watch, or like Love Is Blind. That's a good one, right? Like
These
all
are
those
things you could watch.
Yeah. I'm currently watching a terrible, trashy reality show. Again, just because I need the mental break, but I won't admit that on the show. I'm gonna
Nothing
go
wrong with
with
that.
like Grey's Anatomy, right? Like, you can all hate that,
Nice.
but at least it's a relatively acceptable show.
I had a student last year who was in love with Grey's Anatomy, and I've had plenty of students who loved Grey's Anatomy. But this particular student, when we were connecting at the beginning of the school year, like his first couple days of connection, like sharing, were like, "Oh, we had football practice last night," and I'd be like, "Oh, what do you play?" And he was like a nose tackle or something on the line and things like that. And we talk about the next day, and he'd share about a video game he's playing, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm really into Fortnite," and stuff like that. And then one day he's like, "My favorite TV show is Grey's Anatomy," and I was like, this doesn't seem to match with any of the other things you've shared with me. And I thought he was like messing with me. And he's like, no, I love Grey's Anatomy. And like, he came to school one day once we were all in person with a Grey's Anatomy, like the name of the hospital on the sweatshirt. And I was like, that is amazing. And I love that he was so comfortable in his own skin to be like, listen, I play football, I play Fortnite, and I love Grey's Anatomy. And I'm like, hey, more power to you, man. That's amazing.
Exactly. There's so many shows out there that I'm like, I don't know that I want to admit this, but I do enjoy it. Grey's Anatomy is one of them. It's had like 100 seasons. It's like, oh yeah. I do love, we get a lot of shout outs of The Office, a lot of people watching The Office. And then Brad Hughes brings up Formula One racing. I have never watched it until Sunday. I just watched Formula One racing for the first time. I had no idea. It's kind of cool. I'm like I think I'm going to be a fan.
What's the difference between Formula One and IndyCar? Like, are those the same thing?
Okay, I don't know enough about anything to be able to answer that question, but here's what I've gotten for you. Formula One is like Mercedes, Ferrari, the cars, the wheels are on the outside. I don't know if any of this makes sense. And I know it happens overseas. So it was like Sunday morning watching it, but it was happening in the evening somewhere else than the US. That's all I got for you. And Drive to Survive is what everybody is talking about. Maybe this is the show everybody needs to watch. This is like the Netflix drama of Formula One racing. And I will tell you, it was a epic ending to the race that just happened on Sunday. Big competition there between Ferrari and Red Bull. So I don't know, maybe we should all get into Formula One.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Apparently, this is the argument. The comment here from Alex says Formula One is so much better than NASCAR. I don't know the difference, although I know NASCAR is like the cars where like the wheels are on the inside. Formula One is like the tight nose, and then I don't know, guys. I need to learn.
Alex with the hot take this morning, going with that. He's gonna get some hate mail on for that one, I think.
I'm just saying, Jake, you need to commit live on the show, hard-hitting news right now. You are going to look into Formula One racing.
I already did. I Googled it. Yeah. See, I don't know what's the difference between that and Indy cars because they look similar. So I went to the Indy 500 a couple times when a buddy of mine lived in Indianapolis, which is kind of your neck in the woods, right? Have you ever been to the Motor Speedway?
I have not, but I need to go. I'm in the Chicagoland area, so it's a quick, just like hop skip over there.
Right. Well, Chicagoland has a motor speedway too, but that they probably are only NASCAR there. But I've been to both NASCAR races and IndyCar races, and they're both a blast. Very different people in the crowd at those two events, but both are very fun.
All right, we are doing a Teach Better field trip. We're gonna make it happen. That'll be good. Brad Hughes just claimed it in the comments. Friends, we are going to wrap up our show here for our morning. It is Wednesday, March 23rd, and we are continuing celebrating not only the Teach Better birthday celebration that kicks off tomorrow, but also just all of us having a wonderful week. Jake, I want to make sure that our friends here get to connect with you. They need to go follow you on all these platforms. They need to go subscribe to your podcast. They need to go check out your book over on Amazon. Can you give us a few spots that we can stay connected with you?
Yeah, so all of the social medias, it's right there at Jake Miller Tech, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, a little bit on TikTok, and then my website is jakemiller.net. And I'd love to connect. My favorite thing about doing this work is when somebody just reaches out with a question about something or with a share about something they're doing and being able to connect with them on that and talk to those educators. Because like I said earlier, that's my jam, is helping educators with ed tech. So that goes for, speaking at a conference or being on a podcast or being on a live stream, but it also goes for just connecting with some educator who has a question about something. So more than happy to do that for sure.
Jake, something I really appreciate about connecting with you a few years ago is that I feel like once somebody connects with you, you're immediately friends and able to talk shop about anything, and a very collaborative educator. You definitely value connecting with others. And so I want to encourage all of our network here, add Jake to your PLN if he's not already there, because he's the easiest guy ever to go pose questions to or learn alongside. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you do. And maybe we're hoping to see you at Teach Better 2022, maybe submitting some proposals. I'd love to see you present and podcasting over there.
Yeah, it would be cool.
It'd be great. And it's in Ohio again this year. So for those of you who are eager to share your voice, maybe join the lineup, maybe alongside the one and only Jake Miller. You guys can find out all the details over at teachbetterconference.com. It is next year, October 14th and 15th, happening in Akron, Ohio. And we are so excited to have proposals open through this month and next month. It will close at the end of April. So for those of you who are eager to submit your proposal, you have some time, but get it done early so you don't forget. It'd be really good. Jake, thank you again for joining the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, Ray, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to have been on the show. I love the work you guys do. I know it's been a long time coming because, you reached out and I was like, but this is during my school day. I can't do it during that time. And so I was like, okay, this is my spring break. This is happening. And my wife is like, why are you waking up this early on your spring break? And I'm like, because I get to talk to Ray today, honey. This is going to be amazing. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm so glad I got the chance.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, so good to see you. For everyone else, we wish you the best Wednesday ever. Please go fill up your coffee. And of course, let us know if you need anything. Don't forget that later today, we obviously have our brain break. I'm sure there'll be some shenanigans and intentional time to take a break away from school and just goof off with the Teach Better community later this afternoon. And then as a reminder, we will see you for the big day tomorrow. There's a lot going on for the Teach Better 7th birthday. So you can find out all those details at teachbetter.com/happy birthday, including a very special daily drop-in with our two co-founders, Chad Ostrowski and Jeff Gargas. We'll see you all later and have a wonderful Wednesday. Bye, friends.
Bye, everybody.